mental health is something that we don't talk about enough. In the black community, well, we're massively overrepresented in the mental health institutions, even more so than in the prisons. And again, these are questions we have to ask. Well, why?
But once you get a control and an understanding of who you are, no one can use you against you. No one can ever use your mental illness against you. You've already spoke about it, so what you got?
The biggest point in life to resolve mental health is like giving a fuck about a person.
Where did you get the courage? I got the courage for 2 words. I care.
It's Chill Will Radio, where connections will be made, advice will be given, jokes will be told, and things will get real. My name is Willis Cooks, and I'm your host. But understand this show is not meant to be used as a substitute for a relationship with a licensed mental health professional. Enjoy the show, y'all.
Yes. Welcome. It feels good to be back in the studio, man. Welcome to another episode of Chill Will Radio. First and foremost, thank you for all who are listening. For those who haven't got in yet, who will be listening, and everything else, man. Everything is greatly appreciated. Thank you for your time and everything like that. My name is Willis Cooks. This is another episode of Chill Will Radio, and I'm back. It feels good to be back, man. Last week I was gone. Last week I was in Atlanta, Georgia for my homecoming. Clark Atlanta University, probably by far, in my opinion, the best HBCU out here. There's obviously going to be a lot of critics, but it happens. But that was a beautiful, beautiful thing. Went out, seen some beautiful, great people, seen some friends. I was about to say fun. Had some fun and seen some friends. And, there were certain individuals there were certain individuals I did not get to see, but we'll see them soon because I spend a lot of time in Atlanta. I go there very frequently. But my check-in, how am I doing this week? As always, I'm sitting here on the mic nervous, but it's okay because it's all about the experience. But my week was very, what's the right word? Relieving. I got back here on Monday, like around 5 o'clock. Directly after I got back here, I had to move. It feels so good to finally be able to move. It took me about 3 months to move out of my place. About 3 months, the whole summer and all of September. I just moved. I moved from my new place, and there was a lot of things that were going on into it. A lot of family problems that added to it, a lot of little things that caused the hold up and things like that. But I was finally able to move, so it's a real good weight that's lifted off of my shoulders. So I'm glad that's off of my checklist. What else? My week, the week, like I said, has been very relieving. Also frustrating though. I work in the field. I do a lot of work in the field, and when you deal. It's not frustrating dealing with the patients that I deal with. I have some very acute, very manic, very psychotic individuals, very psychotic patients. It's always the coworkers that get on my nerves. Coworkers, supervisors, they make the job that much harder, man. If I just dealt with the patients alone, it'd be perfectly fine. But shoot, they were mad annoying. I have an individual from another job that's not putting me on the schedule for some odd reason, so I'm going to go in there on Tuesday and say, hey, yo, you need to put me on the schedule or I'm finna go somewhere else type of thing. And because we got to work. You're not about to cut my hours just because of whatever reason. But what else went on my week? So we got work. We got me coming back. One of the things that I've learned at homecoming, I really found out that my tolerance level for bullshit has really kind of disappeared. Like, it's non-existent at this point. A lot of my friends, a lot of my very, very close friends are about, I would say, 24 and up, right? And we're all functioning adults. We all have our own place. Some have houses. We all have our own place, pay rent, car notes, very real adult lifestyle. And, when you get to a certain age, and when you get to a certain age in life and you start to do a lot of things, you get to this point where bullshit and excuses it just becomes irrelevant. You know, it's either you're rocking with something or you're not. You know, and then if we get to a point to where it's hard for us to communicate as adults, especially if there's nothing in the way, nothing that's blocking us. Oh, snaps, I just noticed I didn't put the music up. Let me do that. There we go. But as I was saying, like, my tolerance level for bullshit has kind of went down the drain. And I noticed that out there in Atlanta because there were certain times to where I would try to go see certain individuals, numerous amount of individuals. It's excuses after excuses after excuse. You know, granted, things happen, and it is what it is. And I'm not mad that I didn't get to see individuals, but just say, hey, I got this, instead of beating around the bush. That's the biggest thing that irritated me. But outside of that, it was a lot of fun, seeing a lot of great people. It was a lot of, Willis, I support you. A lot of, Willis, I support you, and I like what you're doing. And for those who follow me on Instagram, I think I made a post on my story, and it briefly spoke about, like, yo, if you support me, let me actually see that you support me. See, the good thing about this platform, the Good News Radio, there's actual proof. Like, you have to actually have proof. See, and I was telling people, like, yo, pull out your phone. Let me see if you downloaded the app. Let me see if you downloaded the app. If you do not download the app, I'm going to call you out on your shit on the spot, and you're about to download this. Now, there are probably certain people who downloaded it and then deleted it later, or downloaded it and haven't listened to a show. Whatever the case may be, you understand that fake support isn't really going to be tolerated on this end, and it shouldn't be tolerated at all. You know, you don't have to, if you're vocalizing the support, that's another thing. If you're vocalizing the support and telling me how much you are proud of me. I couldn't get my word right. How much you're proud of me and how much you congratulate me for everything that I'm doing. I thoroughly appreciate it. Thoroughly do. But let me see the proof. Because I've asked certain situations like, hey, what's the name of my show? What's the name of my podcast? What's the name of a certain episode? What is it on? When I start hearing them, give me a phone. Give me a phone and download this app. And that Sunday when I did have the show come out, I text people. I text every single individual that I downloaded the app on. Yo, the show is up. Listen. You know, for those individuals who vocalize their support, for me at least, and they were in my face, I felt like I had to hold them accountable. Because I'm not a fan of the fake shit. Like, don't. Just because you see it and you feel as if you have to say something. I appreciate it. But let me see the real support. The real supporters. So for, you know, those who are supporting not even just me and everything that I'm doing in this mental health field and everything that I'm trying to do, you know, as a mental health field, as a therapist, and as a future psychiatrist, because I will be going to medical school soon, but as a future psychiatrist, thank you for everybody who supports me. But even if you don't support me or haven't even caught on to it yet, thank you for supporting the Good News Radio station and all of the shows that are here. So, leading into the self-care tips, man, of the day. One of the things that's thoroughly most important that I believe we do, that we don't utilize, we hardly ever utilize, is breathing. We hardly ever really breathe. And that's probably one of the most powerful tools we have in our toolbox. Gomez, thank you, man. At least they're thinking about you, bro. Hey, that's definitely right. Let me take a step back and dial it back before I get into the self-care spot. You definitely have a point. At least they are thinking about me. That did kind of sound very unappreciative and ungrateful. Definitely did. But, you know, because I like to have conversations, and I like to ask a lot of questions in certain conversations. And the only thing that prompted me to start that is the first individual who spoke, who, you know, said what they said about it. I asked them, what's the name of the show? You know, they couldn't respond. I asked them, you know, what's the name of, what is the show on? They couldn't respond, you know, so it probably was like more on a general sense. So yes, you do have a point. Thoroughly appreciate the fact that they're thinking about me. but I also want you to actually, follow the community that we're trying to build here at the Good News Radio Station and things like that. So thank you for that, because you do have a point. But back into the self-care tip, which is breathing. And I want to emphasize breathing in implementing a sort of breathing routine into your daily life. Like I said, I want to emphasize breathing and not meditation. Obviously, those two are used interchangeably. But within the work and the things that I do, one of the things that I found out is that how words can cause an individual to either back off or be more prone to accept it. I'm a firm believer that words are not powerful at all. Words are only as powerful as the power that we give them, right? We put the power in a lot of words. We put the power in bitch. We put the power in the word power. Like, it could be anything else. We decide what we're putting that word in. And Carly, thank you. Oh my God, all the way from Cleveland, Ohio. Yo, Carly, good looking. We put our power in certain words. So within the work, when I mention things like meditation, because I meditate at least twice a day. And when I mention the word meditation to a lot of my patients, it's words like meditation, words like yoga, words like forgiveness, these sorts of words, especially meditation and forgiveness. But when we're speaking about meditation, a lot of my patients, a lot of my black patients, they always say, oh, I don't do that, or that's their stuff, as if, meditation isn't for everyone. So I want to be mindful of the certain words that I'm using when I'm speaking about, this self-care tip, because I've noticed when I mention meditation to some of my black patients, they say, I'm going to do it, but they think when it comes to meditation, it's this whole exercise, it's this whole thing, when in reality, you can meditate in any type of way. You can meditate driving, you can meditate sitting down, meditate standing up, meditate while you're actually, doing some form of activity. But we're speaking about breathing. We're trying to keep it as simple as possible. The one reason why breathing is very, very so important is because when you take a second to actually breathe, what you're doing is slowing everything down. See, in my first episode here, I remember I had a conversation with Keith afterwards, and one of the things that I told him that I noticed is I didn't breathe throughout the whole episode. I was talking really fast and doing all of this stuff and blah, 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 and whoop, and like, it was hard. When you're not breathing, you're not giving yourself that time to slow down. You're not giving yourself that time to, come back and collect a lot of your thoughts. You're not allowing that anxiety to lessen, right? Because even right now with me, here on the station, I'm nervous in doing this. But the simple fact that I'm actually taking pauses, breathing, and things like that helps out a lot. So when we get into a lot of situations to where we get into arguments, or when we get nervous, or when we get anything else in life, it's important to understand that being mindful in your breathing is very important. Being mindful in your breathing is very important. One of the things that breathing can drastically help us out with, and there's a lot of individuals that deal with this, is when we have anxiety attacks and panic attacks and things like that. There's a lot of individuals who deal with anxiety issues because we can come into a lot of anxious situations. And there are certain individuals who are more prone to anxiety attack than others. Anxiety and nervousness, they're normal emotions, right? They're normal feelings. But the one thing that separates the two is the level of severity in it. Do you have rational anxiety? Do you have irrational anxiety? Where is that coming from? And a lot of the patients who have anxiety problems, anxiety attacks, panic attacks, the one key factor in it all is we're hyperventilating, right? We start to breathe very fast and we start to shallow breath, right? Our breathing becomes very shallow. And that within itself causes our chest to tighten up, causes us to feel like we can't breathe, causes our muscles to tense in a lot of situations. When we're mad, we're breathing very, very hard. We're huffing and puffing and things like that. When we're running, we're breathing very, very hard. things like that, because we're tense, right? Our heart is pumping, things are moving at a rapid pace. But if we just take a second and just be mindful of how we're breathing, right? If we just take a second and be mindful of how we're breathing, then that within itself will cause us to slow down. Immediately, that anxiety attack that we're having will cause us to slow down immediately. And the time it will take to get out of your anxiety will be drastically shortened, right? And I know this for a fact because I use this on a lot of my patients, right? When they're having anxiety attacks, when they're having panic attacks, look me directly in the eye or look at something in the room. Pay attention to one little thing, because when we're having an anxiety attack, we're pacing back and forth, our eyes going back and forth, things like that. No, stop what you're doing and just look at one thing on the wall. Look at me in my eyes, look at whatever, look at one spot and just focus on breathing. That's it. Just focus on breathing. And that within itself, you're going to immediately begin to notice how our anxiety attacks, how that panic attack that you're having right now is going to start to end gradually. And it's important that we implement that daily. We have to give ourselves those breaks, right? At work, when it comes to lunch breaks at work, I never sit with my coworkers. I always go back to my car and just give myself that time to sit there and breathe, to sit there and reflect, because I get nervous. My anxiety goes up while I'm running groups, even though I really do love running groups with a lot of my patients. I love doing group therapy. I love doing individual therapy. I get nervous sometimes because when you're standing in the room and then you have, especially depending upon the acuity of the patients you're dealing with, when you're standing in the room and then you have anywhere between 5 to 20 patients looking at you. And then if you have some psychotic patients in your room, you know, anything can happen. You got to be mindful of certain words you say. You got to be mindful of how you're moving. You got to be mindful of all of these things. So a lot of anxiety for me personally goes into it. So when I go for lunch and I go sit in my car, I have to have those breathing exercises. I have to actually sit there, breathe, and calm myself down. Because if you don't give yourself that space, us as black people, we are naturally very violent individuals, right? A lot of the times, especially males, we go towards aggression. And I know for me, if I don't give myself that time to reflect or that time to really breathe, I'm going to become aggressive. Not physically, but more so aggressive in my words, more so aggressive in my approach, more so aggressive in my speech. You know, how quickly am I responding? Am I really looking at you? Do I have this mean face on my face, this mean look on my face? And being mindful of how I'm breathing assists with that. I remember a few months ago that I went to a meditation session at a Hindu temple, I believe. Yeah, it was a meditation session at a Hindu temple. And the individual who was guiding us through the session, he said a quote. And he said, in the beginning you inhale, then you cry. In the end, you exhale, then you die. In the beginning, you inhale, then you cry. In the end, you exhale, then you die. You know, that right there within itself says how important breathing is. When we're born, we inhale, it's over. And then our last breath, we exhale, and then it's a wrap. You know, so it's important to be mindful of how you're breathing. How fast are you breathing? Are you breathing shallow? You know, are you taking deep breaths? And one of the things I've noticed for myself when I started to mindfully breathe, when I started to intentionally pay attention to the way I breathe, I didn't know how, which may sound really awkward and things like that, but I didn't know how. See, one of the things that's important when we breathe is that, you know, we breathe through our stomach and not through our chest. Because when we're breathing through our chest, we're not getting as deep as a breath as we possibly could. And that within itself can cause some anxiety to happen. So to take a second to be mindful of that when you're breathing, when you're inhaling, and how your stomach expands. When you're exhaling and how your stomach contracts. What comes in that's going to allow you to get that deep breath that you've been searching for. So the self-care tip of the week that I thoroughly hope everybody will implement right now, sometime within their day, is just to breathe. When you're angry, just breathe. When you're sad and depressed, just breathe. When you're having panic attacks, just breathe. When you're having anxiety attacks and you're nervous and things like that, just breathe. Be mindful of where you're at and how you're doing and what's going on with your body. It's very, 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 very important. Very important. Let's take a second to go into the comments. Like I said earlier, Carly, thank you. Erica B, thank you. Yes, words are meaningless. They only have universal understanding. Hey, great point. Great point. I tell a lot of my patients, and it's weird because a lot of my patients have trouble with words, right? A lot of my patients don't like the word forgiveness. They don't like the word forgiveness. And that's fine. Just switch the word up and how it applies to you. You know, sometimes instead of forgiveness, I use the word acceptance. Also, one of the things that I do in a lot of my sessions, I curse. I do. And my supervisors don't like that. Because, we have to remain professional and things like that, or we'll do whoop and all this other stuff. But who dictates what a curse word is? Because king, what if king meant bitch? What if beautiful was a curse word? What if gorgeous was a curse word? What if my name, Willis, was a curse word? You get what I'm saying? We put the meaning onto those words, so it really doesn't matter. What matters is how we're using them and what power do we give them, because it ain't worth nothing. Keith, what's going on, man? You can't control how others feel from what you say. You'll lose your mind walking on eggshells. Hey, yes, you're definitely right. Man. You're going to lose your mind walking on eggshells. You never can control what someone else says. A lot of my patients deal with that. We're worried about, and a lot of people, even myself, sometimes growing up, especially when you have those low self-esteem parts in your life, you worry about what someone else will say. You worry about someone else says. I want to make sure I say this the right way. Because if I don't, it's going to be very confusing. This is a quote that I believe is extremely dope. It is, and this is going off of your comment, Dilder. Yeah, hopefully I said your name right. Name right. I'm going to call you Gomez, man, but it's going directly off your comment. I am not who I think I am. I am not who you think I am. I am who you think I think I am. Right? I am not who I think I am. I am not who you think I am. I am who you think I think I am. And the reason why I said that quote is because it's going directly off your comment. We live in this world to where we go based upon what others think. But in reality, we don't know what others think. So I think that you think that I feel a certain way. I think that you think that I think, I'm living a certain way, or I feel this or feel that, or whatever the case may be. Well, we don't know what the next person is thinking at all. So we live in a perception of a type of space. And it's important to understand that your perception and your thoughts are the only one that matters to you. Because none of us is Professor X out here. We can't dictate what someone else is thinking. We never will be able to know. So, like I said, self-care tip, breathing, implement that into your life in some type of way. So, moving in for today's guest, I hope you're on the line still. Laya, you still there?
I am.
Hey. So, we got a guest today. Laya Adams. So, I remember our first conversation I had with her, and it was a very brief conversation, but she told me that she wrote 3 books on mental health since July. And I was like, what the fuck? Like, I have problems trying to start a book, and you wrote 3 books since July, and that's something that I believe is very, very great and very, very powerful. Laya Adams, she's an author out of Georgia. She lives in Georgia right now, which is why she's calling in. She has 3 books out there. We got Mentally Me, The Diary. We got Me Unedited. And then we got Words from a Twisted Heart for the World. And these are 3 books that she's wrote. And Laya, if you want to kind of go in and I kind of dive in or briefly scratch the surface of some of these books and what they mean to you, what caused you to read, what caused you to write them, and, where did the motivation of them come from? And just, who are you?
So, I've been writing probably since I was about 14, 13 or so. I noticed then that I had like really bad depression.
Okay.
And I really couldn't express myself with words. So I wrote it down. In May of this year, I attempted suicide twice.
You said May of this year you attempted suicide twice. Okay.
And with those suicide attempts, I was put in the hospital. And
Now, when you say hospital, you was in the psychiatric hospital? Was you like placed on a involuntary hold?
no, I was in the mental health hospital.
Yeah.
For the first time about 4 days, and then I ended up getting out. I still wasn't quite myself, so I went back in. And that's where words from a twisted heart came from.
Okay.
I started writing it while I was in the mental hospital. I was like, I had groups and everything else going on, but I wasn't happy with myself and my career choice.
Okay, so let's kind of take a step back real quick. What you said you attempted suicide twice. What were some of the reasons as to why you attempted suicide?
I just felt alone. I just felt like nobody understood.
Hello?
I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
I just felt alone. I just felt like nobody understood, could understand where I was coming from, my feelings, anything like that. Like, I just felt like I couldn't do good for anybody. My anxiety normally comes with anger.
Okay.
So it's not. So I was starting to notice I was becoming more angry and more angry and more angry, and I just couldn't figure out why. And I was becoming angry with people, but it could just be a simple smile today.
Yeah.
Laya, smile today, and that would just make me angry. I don't feel like smiling today. So I got involved in this. I'm sorry.
You good.
Physical abuse situation.
Okay.
From my mama's husband. And he would steal from me, beat me, and everything.
So you was in an abusive relationship?
Well, it was my mama's husband, so yeah. It was a stepfather relationship.
Yeah, okay. Okay. And how long did that abuse go on?
Months.
For months?
Months.
Okay.
Yeah, months.
Okay. And all of this is going on while you was a child?
Actually, this happened. This was going on now as an adult.
Okay.
When I was a child, there was sexual molestation and people that took advantage of me physically, sexually, mentally.
Yeah.
And that caused a lot of PTSD in my life.
Okay.
So it was like my outlet was writing.
Okay. And that's really big, especially, with you actually being able to find that outlet. There's a lot of people who I know who have problems with journaling and writing things down. Writing is one of the main coping, skills that I give to a lot of patients, but a lot of times it's hard for patients to formulate their thoughts, because when you write them down, what you're also actually doing is like facing what you actually been through, because now it's on a piece of paper. Now you're actually writing it. So it's kind of hard to really write things down. And you said you've been writing since you were a kid, right?
Since, about 13,
okay.
14.
Okay, so when you were in the mental hospital and you started to write the first book, what were some of the things that allowed you to keep going once you got out of the hospital in terms of writing?
So while I was in the hospital, one of the techs there, he wasn't a counselor or anything like that. He was a tech. He had looked me dead in my face. I didn't know him. I had just met him that day. And he looked me dead in my face and he said, "You don't finish anything." So I was like, What you mean? I graduated college. It took me a little longer than most, but I graduated.
Yeah.
And he was like, you don't have confidence in yourself. You don't finish anything. I could just look at you and just tell. And he was right.
Okay.
Anything that I would love to do, I wouldn't do. I would start it and quit. So while I was in the mental hospital, I met a lady, and she had a friend that was a writer. And so she knew the process of publishing and how to do it for yourself and, things of that nature. So when I got out, I was like, I'm going to finish something. That makes me messed up.
Yeah.
I can finish what I want to finish. So
Okay.
I instantly was like, you know what? I went through my bags because she had wrote the website down on a piece of paper, and I was there for a month, so I had a good bit of stuff in my bag. So I was like, you know what? I'm looking at my bags, and I found the link, and it took me about a week to build up the courage to actually type it, because I was thinking people don't understand me.
Yeah.
Are they really going to understand my words? But you know what? I was like, you know what? That's fine. They're just not going to have. They're just going to have to not understand me, because this is what I want to do, and I can't do this to myself again.
Yeah, and I like that. I like that because that kind of goes back into the previous episode, which was on selfishness, right? When you brought up, hey, I'm afraid if other people may not understand me, and then you had this, this other thought and saying, so what? This is more so for me. Those who understand it will understand it. Those who don't. But I need to be able to write this in order to get this off of my chest. So, that aspect of being selfish in those regards and taking care of and doing what you believe is right for you at the moment, and even still now, it's a very powerful thing within itself for you to actually be able to have that courage to like continue to write. Because, like I said, looking down at that piece of paper with the stuff in it, you're putting yourself out there, especially if you're going to release it.
Right. And, I was really scared of I'm not going to have it back. Okay. And I didn't. My family, turned their backs. They had their things to say and everything. But you know what? That was okay because I was being selfish. It wasn't for you. It wasn't for you.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't for you. Mm-hmm. It was for me.
Yeah.
And it made me happy. I don't care if it does. If it doesn't make you happy, that's fine. But it made me happy.
Yeah.
You don't have to buy my book. You don't have to do anything. It's for me to prove to myself that, you know what, I can finish whatever I want to. I can do whatever I want to.
Okay. So let's kind of get into, I guess, your time in the mental hospital and things like that. How was that for you? Were you diagnosed with anything, and what were you diagnosed with?
I have PTSD.
Okay.
Bulimic anxiety. I vomit when my anxiety gets really bad, and my anxiety attacks they're not nervousness. I more lash out with anger. I have bipolar type 2 and major depression disorder.
Okay. And how long ago? How long do you feel like you've been exhibiting some of these symptoms or had these, disorders?
I've been taking antidepressants probably since I was 12 years old.
So your whole life, basically.
My whole life.
Okay. And you still take medication now?
Well, there was a situation that occurred when I was 11, and it just kind of took me down a dark path. Mm-hmm. And since then, I just couldn't really shake that at such a young age. I couldn't shake that, what had happened, and I ended up on medication.
Okay. What was the situation that happened at 11?
Gosh, my mama had a boyfriend, and he would torment me all the time, just torment me. He would flick his tongue at me, say things to me. It was an everyday struggle. Mm-hmm. And I told my mama, and she kind of took charge and kicked him out for a day, but he was back the next day.
Okay, got you. Did you when you told your mother some of these things, what was her reaction? Did she believe you? Did she say, did she believe you?
So, here's the hard part, because a lot of people have told me I shouldn't blame my mother because when I was that age, she's my age that I am now.
Yeah.
When this stuff was happening. So they're saying, a lot of people say, oh, she was a child. She didn't know how to handle it. She was young. You need to forgive her and just forget. But I had a conversation with her recently.
Mm-hmm.
And probably about 3 weeks ago, about everything that had happened. I had told her every incident that ever happened. I told her the next day. She told me 3 weeks ago. She don't remember none of it.
None of the stuff that you've told her?
None of it. And it broke me.
Okay. And that's so, like, even that, right? A lot of times in this black community, one of the things that we do is hide it, right? That's what makes it that's what makes it that much harder to really, I guess, want to speak about and open up about our issues and things like that. Is because when we reach out to the individual who we believe should be there for us, a lot of the times they shut us down.
Right.
They shut us down, and then that causes us to make us feel unworthy. We don't want to speak up no more, and we just all the way back off because you don't believe me. So when she said, she didn't believe any of the stuff that she don't remember any of the things that you told her. How did that make you feel, and where did you go from there?
I completely lost it. I'm not even going to lie.
Okay.
I was outraged. I was outraged. How dare you? How really? You don't remember? How could you? I remember fine. How could you not? We're not on speaking terms. Completely just had blocked her out of my life, and I'm gonna let her deal with her demons. She knows what's going on. Mm-hmm. She remembers.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm gonna let her stuff about herself.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to even put her in my life to even try to remind her. Because why would I put myself back through that?
Yeah. Yeah. Definitely right. Definitely right. And so, how long were you in the hospital?
From the 3rd to the 28th of May.
From the 3rd of May to the 28th of May.
Mm-hmm.
So a full month. Okay, so once you got out of the hospital, what went on next? Did you go directly into therapy? Did you go to like some form of outpatient treatment facility?
I went into outpatient therapy, like 3 days a week, and I see my psychiatrist once a month. I was doing all kinds of exercises and things of that nature.
How was it for you when you went to go see the therapist? Was it a hard thing to actually speak to the therapist about your stuff? Did you feel as if the therapist was right for you? How was just your experience with it?
I was actually happy to speak with someone that understood what I went through.
Mm-hmm.
It's like I had been talking to, being in the black community, we do not discuss, you always got to be strong. You always got to face your problems. No, don't cry. Pick your head up and keep pushing and everything. And I had just got tired.
Yeah.
And, I just wanted someone to say something different than, oh, just be strong. Oh, it could be worse.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So when I finally got to talk to somebody and they finally knew exactly what I was going through and how my mind worked and everything of that nature, I cried. I was so excited.
It sounded like you got fed up with the help you weren't receiving, right?
I got fed up with the people that were saying they were supporting me, but really nitpicking at the situation and then making it worse.
Mm-hmm.
If I say leave me alone, that's what I mean. Leave me alone. They don't mean, hey, what's wrong?
Mm-hmm.
You're escalating the situation.
Yeah. But a lot of times what I've kind of figured out is that we don't know how to ask someone else for if they're okay. We just ask if they're okay. And if they say they're good, then okay, I guess they're good. But even though sometimes we may have that feeling that person isn't good, we kind of want to pull it out of them. We try to force to pull it out of them, right? And this is kind of why I say that black people do ask for help. We just don't go seek that professional help. because we have people in our family who ask. We may go, chop it up with a friend or somebody like that, and we don't know how that other person on the other end, that friend, brother, mother, sister, whomever, they don't know. They're not trained in how to properly, assess the situation. They're not trained in how to properly allow that individual their time and to give them, that space and their time to actually breathe and get the situation out. We sometimes I see something is wrong, tell me what's going on now. And if you don't tell me what's going on now, then stop crying, type of thing.
Right. You don't want to talk about it now, we're fine then. Forget it, No, I just don't feel like talking about it right now. Like, can I not talk about it later? Why does it have to be your time when I want to talk about something?
Okay. So where are you at right now with everything? And what kind of prompted you to continue writing those other 2 books?
Where am I at? Oh God, mentally, it's still a battle every day.
Yeah.
I'm one of the ones that take medication. Not everybody needs medicine, okay? But I am one of the ones that need it.
How does the medications work for you?
I'm sorry?
So how do the medications work for you? Are they helping or are they kind of just
there? They're helping. What I'm getting there is more so of finding the support around me.
Okay.
Medications is fine. It's the people that's supposed to support you. That's the hard part.
And I'm real glad you brought that up, because a lot of what we don't want to get mixed up in is thinking that medications are the fix, right?
Right.
Medications are the quick fix, and that's absolutely false. Medications are there to help you stabilize. They're there to get you to a place to where you can be able to function. But once you're at that place till you're functioning properly and you're able to, be well in society and things like that, how are you helping? How are you, working at what you need to work on? Are you going to the therapy? Are you doing these coping skills? Are you practicing some of the things that your therapist or psychiatrist is telling you to practice? Because like I said, the medication is just one side of it. Medication and therapy is always the best thing. But a lot of folks, what we do is we just think medication is it. But that's not the case. And then sometimes just like it's hard to find the right therapist, it's drastically hard to find the right medications. And that even within itself is a process, right? So what about for you when it came towards finding the right medications and medication actually work? Was that a process for you? How was that?
I think, it was a process because I went to multiple doctors over the years, since 12, to have this adjusted, this changed, this adjusted, this changed. Let's do blood work. Let's do this. I didn't get on the right medications until the second time I went back to the mental institution. And I'm 20, I'll be 28 this year. So it took a long time, it feels like, to get on the medication that I feel like works for me. I think you need to be aware of your side effects and things of that nature. And if you don't feel right, you need to speak up. Don't just say, oh, my doctor's prescribed this to me. It's got to work. I'm just going to take it and just, keep going. No, if you don't feel like you're getting better, you need to speak up.
You got to advocate for yourself.
Exactly. And the first time I got out of the hospital, I didn't feel better. I didn't. And so I went back in, and I stayed in there for a week, and they were like, you ready to go? And I was like, no, I'm not ready to go yet. I'm not mentally ready. I'm not. And I had to make that decision for myself, even though everybody else was like, come on, I will miss you, da-da-da-da-da. I couldn't do it. I wasn't ready.
Okay. And so how long did you end up staying in there overall?
I ended up staying until the 28th. That's the day I went home.
Oh, okay.
March.
Gotcha. Okay. So now you're at a point to where you're out of the hospital. You found the right medications. You're, I guess, functioning properly. You're going to therapy, things of that sort. What's giving you, I guess, that motivation to actually keep pushing? Because at this point, a lot of what a lot of people would do is they would say like, I'm good. All right, cool. Let me chill out now until something else happens, puts them back into the hospital. What gives you that drive to kind of continue to face a lot of the demons that, are inside?
I just have to wake up every day and just kind of ask myself, do I want to be back there? Do I want to be back in that situation? Or do I want to move forward? Sometimes I still feel like I can't handle it, like I can't move forward not because of the medication, not because of my therapist or anything of that nature, but because since I can't find anyone, I feel like to understand me, I isolate myself a lot.
Okay.
And the isolation I have learned is not good.
Not good at all.
So I have a friend. She has kind of the same things that I have going on. So when I'm down, she's like, get up, let's go. We got to get up and do something. Come on. So my own drive. I don't have kids. I kind of look at myself and like, I don't have kids. I don't have, what most people would consider, I guess, a formal adult. I'm not married. I don't, or anything of that nature. So I'm like, I'm living for myself, so I should have 10 times as much fun as anybody else that wish they could have this opportunity. I'm not saying kids is not great. I'm not saying that, but I have had a lot of people and just like, you don't have kids, do you can do whatever you want to do. And I had to think about it like that. Like, you know what? I don't have kids. I just got to take care of myself.
And that's the biggest thing. And like the other thing that you spoke about, and I want to make sure we don't just kind of blow past that, is the support that you have and how your support is telling you like, yo, get up, let's go, let's move, let's do what we got to do. Because sometimes we may have people in our lives who are just there, and we may believe that they're support, but in reality, they're just taking up space. They're just taking up space. They kind of just, you need somebody to sit with. Okay. And even though that within itself is a lot, sometimes we just need somebody to sit with us. Sometimes we just need somebody to listen to us. But to have somebody sitting there in your corner telling you to, like, yo, I don't care what you're doing, but you need to get up and move. You need to get up and work. Because that's the biggest thing that we have to do with a lot of these, illnesses that we have, especially when it comes to mental health, is when you catch yourself beginning to isolate and taking a step back from the world and the people that surround you, that's the moment where you need to get up and move the most. But sometimes but it's hard to do it if you don't have that support there. Very hard.
And that is the hard part, is because of course naturally if you get up and you get social, everybody's gonna say what's wrong. And so now all eyes are on you, and it's just like I don't kind of want to tell you what's wrong. I don't want to go into that deep detail, and it doesn't mean that I love you any less, or it doesn't mean anything. It's just I don't feel like talking about it.
And you don't always need to, and that's another. We don't always need to. Just because we got things going on in our life, that doesn't mean that we always need to speak about it, right? There's a difference between avoiding the actual situation and just there's a difference between avoiding the situation and just not giving it any type of energy, right? So when I mean avoiding the situation, I mean just it's there, but you're just blocking it out. You're not dealing with the feelings and things like that. What I mean by not giving it energy, you've kind of accepted what's there, but we don't want to dive into it right now. We're not trying to speak about it right now, So I'm going to get into it later when I feel like getting into it, but I know it's there and I accept it, but I just don't want to get into it right now, and then that's okay. Like, we're going to come across people who try to make us feel guilty for not trying to speak about our situation, especially if we're in that process. Yeah, especially if we're in that process of receiving help. If we're in that process of receiving help, we don't have to receive that help 24/7, like all day, every day. Like, no, we want to get out and have fun. Like, yeah, I may be depressed and I may have suicidal thoughts and things like that, but I still want to go to the club, shake my ass, and all this other reckless stuff. We still want to do that. So it's important that people understand, like, we don't need to throw the problem in people's faces all the time.
I think a lot of people just need to kind of understand that, like, there's a barrier.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes talking about it makes it worse for me.
Yeah.
You know, or, maybe talking about it might cause some anxiety or something of that nature. So, no, I don't want to talk about it.
Yeah.
And just accept the fact that that's okay. Just know something bad happened that's caused me to be the way I am, and just either take it or leave it.
Yeah. But then on the other end, when it is time to speak about it, we have to make sure that we're not holding anything back. Like, and you have that therapist that you go to, and we have to make sure when we're speaking about it in a safe place.
Right.
Making sure we're in that safe and secured environment. So, because like you just said, speaking about it can cause the anxiety, can cause us to get worse. And you mentioned earlier that when you get extremely anxious, you throw up. So we don't need you to speak about your situation out in public, and then you end up throwing up, and that's going to cause a scene, and that's going to cause your anxiety to go up, and we don't need all that stuff, right? So it's
Right.
important to make sure, like, hey, if we are going to speak about it, let's make sure we're in a safe place. But if we can't speak about it right now at the moment, don't come and treat me as if don't cripple me. Don't treat me like I'm just that bad person, or you need to come at me a certain type of way because I've done this in the past.
Or, oh, you don't love me because you don't want to open up.
Okay. Yeah, that's a big.
That's a big one. Yeah, I was just gonna say that's a big one.
Yeah, that's something I completely forgot about.
And I don't think people realize how hurtful that statement right there is.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think as people with anxiety and things of that nature, we love the hardest. We just want to be accepted. That's all.
Mm-hmm.
And for people to understand us, and for someone to say, you're not opening up to me because you don't love me, or you don't love me because you don't want to open up, or you just keep certain secrets. That's not true.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Don't try to make me feel bad for it.
Yeah. Don't. And sometimes and I'm not even gonna lie. I've growing up, I've done this at certain times because I'm a very aggressive person when it comes to assisting individuals, and sometimes growing up, especially when I was a teenager and undergrad, when I see something going on with someone, I'm there in their chest, trying to pull it out. I don't care what you're talking about. I don't care whatever. So trying to force it out, and then trying to force it out is very selfish on my end. But then also trying to make that other person feel bad about the fact that they're not willing to tell me what I want to hear when I want to hear it. Like I said, it's also very selfish. Right? It can cause that person to shut down even more, but also cause them to feel
exactly
1,000% worse. 1,000% worse. So with the other two books that you have, right? What caused you to? What are you speaking about in those two books? Right? Are you? Because I know in the first part you said what you were speaking about, but what about the other two books? Where you goes with those?
So when I wrote my first two books, Words from a Twisted Heart and Mentally Me, the Diary, I felt like that I was supposed to have the people that was in my life at that time, I felt like they were upstanding adult citizens, and those were the people I need in my life. And they were very opinionated, and they didn't really believe in. Actually, it was the worst kind of people to have, because they strongly believe in, and this is a big one too. Well, then you need to pray about it.
Mm-hmm.
Pray and you'll get better.
Yeah.
When I wrote those first two books, they were edited. They were watered down, because they were like, why would you put that in there? That's not going to, it's not going to catch everybody's eye. Not everybody says those words and things of that nature. So I kind of was speaking with another author when I was writing my third book, Me Unedited, and he was like, why would you do that? Why would you water down your work? That's not even you anymore. That's something that somebody else wanted. If you're going to do it, then you need to do it how you want to do it, and not how somebody else wants to do it.
So what are some
You know what?
what are some of the things in the book that you watered down? Like, what about your story did you take out?
I just I took out like the certain words.
Yeah.
I took out some of the things that happened in my past. I took out what led me up to the point of going into the mental institution.
Mm-hmm.
Because I was angry. So the way I expressed it was with curse words.
Well, curse words?
And curse words.
Oh, gotcha.
And the two people that I thought was really by my side and cheering me on and everything was like, you can't write this. You can't put this out. This is.
So you have people in your own family telling you how to tell your own story, right?
How to tell my own story.
Okay, so when it comes to those individuals and them trying to tell your own story and write your own story, do you think it was because? Do you think it because one of the things and one of the things that we also have a problem with when it comes to a lot of things in our life and in our particular story, one of the reasons why sometimes we're also scared to put it out is because it involves other folks. So when we put our story out, there, we're kind of like, yo, I don't want to make that person feel bad. You know, I don't want to put that person
on blast.
Exactly. So what caused you to get to that place to where it's like, okay, obviously you got the other individual who's telling you like, nah, don't water your story. But what even within yourself gave you that strength to be like, yo, you know what? Forget everybody else. This is all me.
When I had a conversation with another author friend of mine and he was telling me, that's not you, I kind of got a little angry. Like, you know what? That's not how I write. That's not how I perceive things. I've changed the whole mood almost, the whole voice of my book for you, for this individual, because you feel like it's not something that I should put out there. And I realized, like, you know what? Let me make an unedited version. Let me be me, unedited, because if I don't be myself and I'm somebody else, then I'm not authentic.
Yeah.
And that was one of my biggest things is I felt like I had to be somewhere else to please other people.
Gotcha.
And I had to realize, like, well, if the people aren't going to accept me for me,
yeah,
well,
okay,
that's fine. And I've removed those two people out of my life.
Okay, yeah. And a lot of the times we have to get aggressive when it comes to our healing. A lot of times we have to get very aggressive when it comes to our healing because when we tell our story, like I said, it involves other people. And it's always important to be selfish, but also understand, like, hey, this is what I need for me. And if that means I have to kick certain people out of my life for a certain reason so I can be good, so I can get better, great. That doesn't mean I'm kicking you out of my life for good. That just means, while I'm in this time of healing, I can't really rock with you right now. And because I can't really rock with you right now, don't feel bad, but I got to do what I got to do for the sake of myself. And I think a lot of times when we as a community, as black folks, we always kind of have the other person in mind when it comes to a lot of our healing processes. Like for me, when I was, I guess, going through my little healing process or whatever, or, when I spoke about suicide, it was just like, it involved other folks. So it's just like, I don't want to bring that person up. And then have that person start questioning me, and then the other person start coming around, and they start feeling guilty and ask, what did they do to cause me to get to this place and all this other stuff. So it's much easier to be like, you know what, fuck it, I'm going to just chill. It's much easier to be like, forget it, I'm going to just chill. So I need to be able to look out for myself. Type of thing. And that's a very brave and courageous thing that you actually had to do because, like I said, when you putting the stuff in a book, you're putting it out there. And I believe, yes, speaking about your mental health is very, very important. But for those individuals who take the extra step and actually write about it and put it out there, you actually now are putting yourself on Front Street. Like, seriously. So the fact that you
everybody.
Exactly. So the 2 books are done right now. Where are you at right now with, your mental health, with your disorders, with the healing process and things of that nature? Where are you at?
Mentally, I'm at a place where I realize my triggers. I'm still trying to get my coping mechanisms down pat because I'm kind of weird. I don't really like people, but I do like people. So
Yeah.
I think you were talking about earlier yoga and meditation. So I've been trying meditation. It's kind of hard to do when you have other people right there kind of in your face, I think my biggest battle is coping mechanisms. Like when I get to a certain point with my anxiety, I instantly know I need to do this. But I'm kind of constantly surrounded by people that not everybody understands, like, well, why do you need to do that?
Mm-hmm.
Why you just can't do this or do that? So with where I'm standing right now is I know what I need to do is just incorporating it.
Yeah.
And kind of being a little more aggressive with it.
Incorporating, building that routine, and the thing that you need. And you briefly mentioned that why do you need to do that? Other folks are asking why do you need to do that, and why you need to do that right now. And it's important to understand that everybody is not going to understand you within that process of healing, because you're going to be at one of your most vulnerable states. So when people start to ask you what's going on and blah blah blah, and you try to explain it to them, they're going to be like, what? Why are you doing that? And we'll just pray about it and all this other reckless stuff, when that just won't work. It might work for you, but it ain't working for me right now. So even in that mode, and with where you're at right now, and implementing that into your routine and everything that you're just doing, one of the things I want to make sure I say to you is that I just appreciate the bravery that you're actually doing, not for the sake of writing the book, not for the sake of putting your story out there, but more so for the sake of having that bravery to actually tell other folks, like, hey, this is what I need to do for me. This is what I need to do for me, because a lot of times we have other people in mind and we forget that this life is for myself. I have to get myself right before I can rock with you. I want to be there with you, but if I'm not right, the
if I'm not right, then I can't be right for you.
Yeah.
I can't be the person you need me to be if I'm not right.
Yeah, definitely not right. One of the last questions I want to make sure I ask you before we kind of wrap this up. We spoke about a lot of the things that went on in your life, some of the reasons as to why you wrote the book, and then we didn't really get too in depth with it because I want to, it's a lot. But one of the things I want to make sure I ask you is, in the midst of everything that you've been through within your life, with the abuse and the negativity and all of this other stuff within the depression and bipolar and PTSD, all of that stuff. We know the negative things that our story kind of give us, but we kind of really don't pay attention to all of the positive stuff that our story gives us, right? So if you could kind of break everything down into one word, what would you say would be the one positive thing that your story has given you?
Strength.
Say that one more time.
Strength.
Strength? Why strength?
Strength.
Why strength?
Because I was always so scared, always so terrified that people are going to look at me this way, and I can't say what's wrong, or I can't get help because my friends are going to look at me like this, or people are not going to be in my life because of this. So when I came out of the hospital, naturally, there were people there in my life that was there before. And naturally, there were people, family members, friends, that had things to say. One of my pet peeves is take your medicine. Don't tell me to take my medicine, okay? I know what I got to do. And I realized, you know what? It's okay to be alone. It's okay if nobody understands me all the time. Mm-hmm. Patience is a virtue. And I realized that I need to be a little more patient and just have a little more confidence in myself.
Yeah. Yeah.
And not try to, base myself off other people's opinions. or what other people think of me, or what other people have to say about me.
Definitely. I like all of that. Thank you for actually reaching out and actually wanting to be a part of the show and getting onto the show and briefly telling your story and things like that. So, wrapping it up.
Thank you for allowing me.
Yeah. So, wrapping it up, can you kind of tell the people that's listening where they can find you and the books and, just to kind of, read your story and figure out your story a little bit more in depth?
So Mentally Me Unedited is on Amazon and on Kindle. You can find me on Instagram, Laya A, or Facebook, Laya Adams. Mentally Me is on Kindle and on Amazon, and along with Words from a Twisted Heart for the People.
Okay. Good. Like I said earlier, thank you for reaching out, coming here, and also thank you for, the strength that you're doing when it comes to your own mental health and making sure everything is that fine. Everything with that is okay, right? Because we all, especially within this community, we have a habit of trying to pray things away, but we have to get into the habit of actually working them away. Prayer is actually good, but, faith without work is kind of trash in a lot of situations, and we always say that. And the thing is, we really know exactly what we're supposed to do to get out of a lot of these situations, but sometimes we just don't put in the work that we need to get out of the situations. And so another thing is, you have to find what's right for you, because one of your things that you were able to find is the writing, right? Without the writing, who knows kind of where you would be right now. So your writing is that one thing that was able to get you out of it. So with a lot of listeners that are listening, what's that one thing that you could do for yourself in order to help you get out of your situation, in order to help you deal or cope with what you're going through? It doesn't have to be through writing, but however it is that you cope with your situation, figure that out, and hold on to that, because it's very, very, very important. All right?
Exactly. And don't let anybody tell you different.
Definitely. Thank you for giving us a call, man. Greatly appreciate it, man. Appreciate it.
Thank you for having me, love.
Bye. Have a good one.
You too.
All right. Bye. So one of the things I definitely want to make sure we kind of take out from her story and her brief story and what she told. One of the things that she kind of said is that it's okay to be alone, and I had wrote that down, and that stuck out for me. The reason why that stuck out for me is because we have to get comfortable with being our truest self. Right? Because a lot of times we could be in a room full of people and we are alone. We are lonely. And there's actually a difference between lonely and alone. So I don't want to say lonely, but we could be in a room full of people and we are lonely. We do feel lonely because nobody understands us. Nobody gets our problem. When we try to reach out, everybody makes us feels like shit, So going back and understanding and being at peace that with what went on is drastically important when it comes to this healing process and everything that we're going through. So, for just to leave you guys off with a question, one of the things I want you to kind of ask yourself is the same question that I asked her. We understand a lot of the negative things that our story gives us. We understand all of the trauma, the pain, the guilt, the negativity, the shame, all of this other negative stuff that our story gives us. But we never take a second to look at what is one of the positive things that our story gives us, right? Does your story give you strength? Laya says strength. Does it give you perseverance, resilience, compassion, whatever it is? What's the one thing that your story gives you? Ask yourself that question, and whatever words you come up with, make sure you embody that word, because that word describes you. Are you a strong person? Are you a compassionate person? Are you a patient person? Are you a resilient person? Whatever it is, whatever word you decide to come up with, embody that word, because that's who you are as a person. And that's the one thing that story gives us. For me, in my story and everything that I've been through, I would say one of the things that my story has given me is empathy, right? I think I mentioned in the first show that I have kind of no sympathy at all when it comes to a lot of situations, when it comes to a lot of my patients and things like that. But I have all of the empathy in the world. I feel as if I can, help you much more better because I can put myself in your shoes. I'm able to understand everybody on another level. But without me being able to understand what my story has given me, it may have been a little bit harder for me to actually accept my story. And that's important. So, what's the one thing that your story has given you? Outside of all the negative shit, outside of all the bullshit, What's one positive thing that your story has given you? And with that said, let's wrap it up, man. As always, thank you for being part of the show. Thank you for tuning in. Remember, thank you for tuning in. And as always, man, my name is Willis Cooks, Chill World Radio. Thank you. Till next time, Peace.